Want to learn what's new with dental products and services? Come join us. Welcome, everybody, to the Digital Trade Show Dental Podcast, where I am sitting down with the amazing people in the industry and having them talk about their companies, their products, their why, their outlook on the future, all kinds of exciting things, and maybe even some things about them that you didn't know. I'm your host, John Stamper, and thanks for joining me. All right, everybody, we're going to hop right in here on the Digital Trade Show Dental Podcast, where I'm spending time with the amazing people in the dental industry that are providing products and or services to you, the dental professional. And I'm very excited for our guest today because, well, for a lot of reasons. First of all, I've had the opportunity to spend some time with her, and I just think she's doing some great things in the industry. She's got a great story, so I'm excited for her to share that. But also, we're going to talk a little bit about teams. We're going to talk a little bit about coaching, and she certainly brings some experience to that realm. And it just seems to me in dentistry right now that there is a focus on that more and more. It's encouraging to see that more and more dental teams are recognizing how important everybody is. So I'm so excited to bring on Lynne Leggett to the podcast. How you doing, Lynne?
I am doing great, John. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, and thank you so much. So Lynne is the owner, founder of Victory Dental Management. She's in Richmond, Virginia. She started the company, I think you said 2011. So just about 7 years. Goes fast, I'm sure.
Flew by, actually.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So yeah, before we get started, we'd love to have you share your story and a little bit about how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you for this opportunity of talking with you today. And I think my story is really unique because I haven't always been in dentistry. I actually started in college to go to pharmacy school, and I worked as a pharmacy tech and decided that that was not the route for me, even though I got accepted to pharmacy school. So I actually switched majors into the business world. So I started out in transportation logistics. I have a pharmacy background. I have a medical background. And everybody says, "Ooh, you've got the trifecta between pharmacy, medical, and dental." So my entry into dental was actually quite by accident. It started because my best friend, she and her husband own a general practice here in Richmond, and she just knew that working with her husband was not going to be a very good thing for them. And she kept asking me for several years to come and run the practice. And quite honestly, John, I had never worked for a friend before. And the relationship was more important to me than working for them because I just didn't want anything to go sour or anything like that.
Right.
So, but she wore me down, and I ended up working with the practice and have loved dentistry ever since, really. It's an incredibly giving and wonderful industry. So it's a blast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how people come into the industry, and I think, like you said, for all the parallels that people would think there are between medical and pharmacy, as you have now learned, there certainly are some similarities, but there are a lot of differences. And so, and particularly, I'm sure, as you have in your line of work, working with dental teams and coaching them and things like that, I'm sure you've seen that, just how different the dental practice is.
It really is. And the one thing that is unique about dentistry is the fact that it's the one business that they're running really two full jobs simultaneously. They are working in the practice and they have to work on the practice. And, the dentists that I talk with they're just tired. It's really hard to be able to wake up and work a full clinical day because I think that dentistry is very grueling work physically on the body. And then they have to turn around and find the time to be able to do things as a business owner. And that's when things really get challenging. And if I had a dime for every time a doctor told me, "Lynne, I just want to work in my op. If I just did dentistry, can you do everything else and I'll just do dentistry?" And if I could figure out a way to do that for everybody, I would be beyond delighted to be able to help them with that. But that's not real life. That's not how it goes.
Right.
But it really is challenging for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, Lynne, because If you look, for example, at the DSO market right now, we've got a lot of these groups and things like that. And certainly when that started, I know there was a hard line in the sand, right? People looking at that business aspect and being frustrated and thinking that it was going to change dentistry. And certainly for some elements it has. But as we've evolved, as I'm sure you've seen, and to your point, I think more and more of the dental professionals are recognizing that. They're recognizing that when they are able to focus on what they do best, which is on the clinical side, and work with patients, that certainly that's where they want to be. But for those that are by themselves, or they have their own practice, or they're working with their teams, and you brought up a good quote before we even got started here, which is, I'll paraphrase and let you share something about employees are not a team, right? I'd love to have you share what you said. I thought that was great.
Sure. Well, that's the one thing that I've always thought that because I guess let me back up to be able to go forward here. My ideal as a team, because my threshold is higher since I've coached girls basketball on every level except the collegiate level. And I got to tell you, John, if I got the opportunity to coach girls basketball or women's basketball on a college level, I would definitely say yes and move the family.
Right.
But until that happens,
Right.
so for me, that's the one thing that I bring to the dental world, because truly understanding how do you coach a team, and that really is the aspect that owner dentists are involved with, and that's one of the things that I know. With a lot of dentists being friends of mine anyway, they're inundated all the time and told, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. And I really don't think that's fair. They just haven't been giving those tools to be able to do that. So I like to come at leadership from a different standpoint and talk about coaching and talk about your team being your team. They're not staff, they're not employees. And that goes back to the difference. Employees don't equal a team, because the definitions of those two and the actions of both groups are totally different. When I'm brought into a practice, one of the things that happens a lot is they want me to work with systems and processes, because I love working with that, especially with my logistics background. I love taking apart what are the pieces of the practice and putting them back together as a whole, and how does everything relate to things on the business side of the practice as well. And in order to do that, everybody needs to be on the same page, or I like to say running the same play. But in order to do that, there's so many other things that need to take place before I can even talk about systems and processes. So that's why I always say, especially when I talk around the country, that employees do not equal a team. And the other thing that I say at least once, if not hundreds of times in front of people, is we don't train people, we teach people. I hate that phrase train, and I know it is a personal thing for me, but I cringe every time I hear somebody say that, because to me, training is demeaning. You train a dog and you teach people. And there's a huge difference within the concepts of those, but I think the words that we use really do matter.
Absolutely. Well, and I heard a long time ago something as subtle as the word staff and the word team. I heard that at a conference years ago, and it's interesting, that has always stuck with me. And I have found myself, anytime I had worked or come across working with the dental team, to take that seriously. I can't remember the person that shared that at a conference who would have you, but it was a very powerful thing. And to your point, it was one word, but it's amazing how that one word can change the whole outlook of everybody in the practice.
Absolutely. And you can refer to people as a team, but there's certain dynamics that are similar between, your well-run teams versus your teams that are just barely getting by.
Right. So I want to get more into some of the specifics that you do. Before I do, I have a question, because hearing you talk just made me super curious, and being that you work with all these teams, I'm very excited to ask you this. But so you've had obviously an opportunity to go in and work with teams at different levels. What is the difference, Lynne, in a dental practice where a team really does want to work together? They want to find ways to help each other out. And then the teams that don't, do you find that with the teams that don't, it's one person often? I mean, certainly I know there's a lot of different variables or whatever, but if you were to dissect those two scenarios, what typically is the difference between the teams that are about each other and the teams that seem to be about themselves?
Well, I think right in your question lies the answer. there is the biggest difference between somebody who is going to be selfish about their needs. And if you're a true team, the way that I like to teach it, the concept of putting the team above self is what it's all about. And in order to do that, the leader or the coach, or in this case, the dentist, needs to be able to say, are we all on the same page with what we're trying to accomplish? Because a lot of the behaviors that you reference with an individual that may not want to be a member of the team, that needs to be addressed, because there's nothing worse than to walk into an office and see everybody but one person, as they say, rowing the boat in one direction, and the other one just is trying to stop any forward motion whatsoever.
Right.
And typically, when I had those discussions, because when I first start with a practice, if that's something that I'm seeing, that obviously needs to be addressed, because I don't know when it became all right, because it's not all right for subpar behavior or work within a practice. It's not okay. And I know a lot of doctors just say, oh, well, Susie at the front, she'll just change. No, she won't. Why would she change? Or
Right.
what is the environment that would make Susie, and I'm sorry for all of your listeners that are named Susie, I just tend to just pick on them.
We all do. I mean, Susie's popular by now. If she didn't realize that was a great marketing name, or her parents, I mean, it's like they know now. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Watch out, Susie.
Yeah.
But it's one of those situations where everybody needs to be working together. But what I find also is the biggest piece, and that's accountability, because I think accountability really equals personal responsibility, because there are aspects of the dental practice that the role of that individual team member, they have to be responsible not only to themselves, but to the rest of the team and the practice. So it all works together. You can't just have one work outside the parameters of the team, or else there's so many different aspects that are going to be off. And the potential of a team can be so high. And the whole reason why we do what we do is for our patients, right? They're ultimately the reason why we do what we do. But I'm also a big believer in, if you take care of your team, they will take care of your patients. But if Susie's not pulling her weight, then we've got a problem, and that needs to be addressed.
Right. So you brought up something very interesting, that when we talk about everybody being on the same page, the work that you do is hard. And everybody that I bring on this podcast that works with dental teams, coaches, consultants, what have you, I always like to bring to the surface. I think a lot of times when you talked about systems and processes, and unfortunately, if there are people that have had not always the best experience, I often think it's a matter of fit, personally. But I like to shed the light on what you do, because it's not easy to do the work that you do, and especially, and I'll get right to this point, which is, how do you take a dentist that certainly has his or her own goals of whether they want to have one practice, 3 practices, they have big lofty goals that they want to accomplish, and the new person who is at the front, who is there maybe helping with insurance, answering the phone, greeting people, or whatever the case may be. And you'll hear people a lot talk about people being on the same page. Getting a dentist in that scenario and the person at the front on the same page, talk a little bit about that. Like how, either in how you teach it, or some great scenarios where you've seen that work, because it could seem to be like that's a pretty big gap. And I'm always fascinated when people are able to bring those two together.
Sure. In fact, that's the one aspect that I absolutely love, because what you're really asking is, how does everybody on the team, and in this case, your scheduling coordinator or financial coordinator, how are they on the same page with what the doctor's trying to accomplish for the practice? And the first step of that is going to be, has the doctor actually vocalized their mission and vision of their practice? Because since everybody has a role to play, how does that really work? And it starts with, for me, when I work with a dentist, I always want to honor the fact that they're asking for help, because I know, for me, I have to honor that, because they work on such small things, teeth, right? And they are very specific. And sometimes it's very difficult to ask for help, and that's human nature. So the first step for somebody saying, you know what, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to try to find somebody. And that's the beauty of our industry, because if I'm not a good fit for somebody, I can get them in touch with colleagues that are. That's
Right.
one of the reasons why I love networking within the groups that I'm a part of, whether it be ADMC or SCN. I don't have all the answers, but I have colleagues that are experts in different areas that I can find them the answers. Or if they're looking for a particular coach or consultant, I can put them in touch with a particular person, because we're not all going to fit the same style, which I think is wonderful, because
Yeah.
dentists aren't all the same either. Just because they work on the same thing doesn't mean they're the same people.
Right.
And with personalities and being able to find the right person. So I think it starts with trust. You've got to trust the person that you're working with. And if you've had a bad experience with a person or with a company before, don't give up. Don't give up trying to find help, because, contact me and I'll try to point you in the right direction with who to find. If working with me wouldn't be a good fit, then we can find somebody else, because there's nothing more debilitating to a person's psyche than to know they need help and they can't find what they're looking for.
Right.
And one of the things that I really love working with dentists, and I joke about it, but a lot of it is helping them realize their true potential, so that they believe in themselves again. Because if you're knocked down all the time, or you're stressed about how am I going to make payroll, or I want to grow and be $1 million practice, or I want to grow and to have 3 associates, whatever the goal is and timeline that we have to work with that, it's got to start with laying down the foundation to be able to build. It's almost like, let's build it with the end in mind and reverse engineer it, because that's how I work with practices. Tell me what you're interested in, and then let's work back and make sure that we have all of the people in the right places to be able to make that vision come to pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and again, I think that there are, when you really wrap your head around just how many dental practices there are in the profession across the country, and all the different personality types. Certainly, I'm sure someone that's a coach, when they find somebody that there's their personality type, that you do make an impact, right? And we've seen that, and that's one of the things I've always had such a level of respect for. A lot of the dental coaches and consultants like yourself, because a lot of people don't realize this. I think sometimes, not always, I think some of the dentists can tend to think that it becomes very competitive. And what maybe many of them don't realize is that, like you said, many of you are in a lot of these different organizations, all learning from each other, which only makes the profession better. And I love that. I think it's great. And I think it's certainly, respect to those of you that have done that, and rightfully so. I mean, it's fit, right? I mean, I'm sure that everybody's at different parts of their journey, and like in a dental practice, and that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, I wanted to have you talk about maybe a recent practice, or in the last 6 months or a year, where a success story, whether it be that you can talk about, you're able to talk about, certainly, but maybe a success story of where you were able to work with them and then they were able to make some great progress.
Sure. Well, I guess the one story that comes to mind is a doctor that I was working with, and quite honestly, he just didn't enjoy dentistry anymore, because the stress level that he was having was so high. And what sort of added to that stress is the fact that he was getting even more stressed about how much he was going to have for his retirement, because selling his practice was a large part of his retirement, that large component. So when he and I started talking, again, he reached out, which is like the first step, right? Got to make sure that you find the right person. When we really started talking about it, I found out, after seeing him on site and talking with him for a long time, that he really had employees and not a team. And we addressed that. And then I started working with him more within the processes and systems for his practice, and found out that they really weren't there either. It's hard when you have a group of people working for you for so many years, and you would think that everybody would know how to do things the most efficient way, but you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
At the end of the day. And now, after working with him, and we've worked together for years together, it's such a beautiful thing for me to see that he is enjoying dentistry now. His stress level has completely gone away, really. And he's now going to be actively looking to sell his practice in 2019. And he's looking forward to retirement and what that means for him and what he's able to do during those years with him and his family, but also having to do that with a better mindset and a better positive experience for him. Because I can't imagine working on something for so long and then feeling so stressed and defeated that he hates waking up and going to work each day. Right. And that's where he was when we started working together. And I can tell you now that that's not where he is. And he's loving life.
So I'm always curious about stories like that. And sometimes there's a moment, sometimes there's not, sometimes there's just a bunch of little moments. And certainly your commitment and perseverance to helping him and his commitment to wanting to move forward. But when you look back, can you remember maybe a certain time period in the relationship, whether it be early on or something that happened that either he did, you said, or you guys talked about that you can remember that really kind of helped him get over that hump?
I think it was for his team, it was the first step of realizing, I always like to use dominoes as an example of a dental practice, because if one falls, they all fall. And I think it's the understanding of how interrelated everything is within the dental practice. I remember years ago, again, from being in logistics, a friend of mine asked me, he's like, I bet you can't flowchart everything that happens in a dental practice. And of course, I was a little offended by that. I said, well, yeah, I'll show you, and the next day I had this layout. I said, well, there are different phases. Are we talking about paper, process, or people? And there were 3 different lines looking at that, and it blew his mind because he goes, well, first of all, I never thought about a practice like that. I said, yeah, that's why you hired me. This is a practice that I used to manage, not a client. So don't get me wrong. I'm not snarky with my clients like that. But
sure,
he challenged me, so I said, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But then when we really started talking about it, it made the understanding of how everything works together. And I actually brought parts of that to this particular client. And I said, okay, let's talk about this, because obviously when we are under stress, we act a certain way. So the first thing I needed to do is to be able to help him understand and put in its rightful place the stress that he was feeling. Start chipping away at that stress. And that's when he realized, hey, we can really look at this. Because when you look at the bigger picture, it's overwhelming. But when you start taking parts of that and breaking it down into smaller digestible bites, if you will, then it's not so overwhelming. And I think that's the one thing that I'm really different than a lot of my colleagues, because I want them to be able to see the building blocks of the practice, but we can work on both sides of the equation. We can either tear it down into parts, or then let's put it back together into the whole. So let's work on both sides of that. And being able to do that with him helped him tremendously, being able to see those parts, because he had never envisioned the practice that way. And once he started seeing people get along better, and it was all communication, right? I mean, it's amazing how we can just mess all of that up all day long, and it seems like we should be able to get it, but yet we don't, for a lot of different reasons. Maybe somebody's been bullied in the practice, or felt like somebody came at them the wrong way verbally, and it just kept building and building and building until we bring those things out in the open. Because I don't feel like conflict is a bad thing. Conflict is bad if you don't deal with it. And I am a person that's going to hit it head on.
Right.
Because when we deal with it, it's amazing. The air is lighter for everybody. And that's what's needed. Let's bring some fresh air into this situation.
Well, you're a basketball coach, so I wouldn't expect anything less. And I think the fact that you got fired up when you got challenged, I mean, I would have been depressed if you didn't. So that's good, right? I mean,
I can't get my clients to run suicides like I can my team. So, I handle them a little differently.
Listen, if you did, that would be hilarious, right? Like if you, like one of the practices that you're coaching, I just want to have somebody there. Like you get them outside. They're doing like suicides in the parking lot. You're like, let's go. Get that on video. That'd be classic. I don't think there's anybody out there doing that.
Nobody's going to volunteer for that one, John. I hate to
exactly. Yeah, I know. You'd get one practice and that would be it.
Exactly.
That's funny. How about maybe some more challenging practices or some more challenging situations? And certainly, I got a respect for those that you've worked with, more general in nature. And maybe you could even just talk about, the theme or, what it was. But, those that you worked with and took a while, a lot longer than maybe either they expected, you expected, or maybe things were not able to be worked out.
Sure. Well, I think it can be really depressing, not only for me, but also for the dentist, when you know somebody has the potential to be a rock star, but they never accept the responsibility to be able to live up to their potential. And
Right.
and that right there, that has happened with a particular practice that I'm still working with, but it's much slower going than we would have liked, because I'm not one of those people that say, "Oh, we need to go in and fire everybody." I hate that. That's never going to be my MO.
Right.
Um, I think maybe, and you and I have talked about this a little separately, about how we need to find the strengths and weaknesses of our team members and put them in a position to use their strengths.
Right.
I'm a firm believer that if we talk and build up everybody's strengths, the weaknesses will take care of themselves. Because if we're truly building a team, I mean, I've got my team of 12 girls on the basketball floor. All of them aren't going to start for me for obvious reasons. But my players that are going to be on the bench more than the starters have a role to play. Everybody has a role to play. So we all need to figure out what is that going to be. But that doesn't mean we stop growing or we stop getting better or our skills don't get better, whether it's communication. That's something that we all need help with. We're not perfect, but that's something that everybody needs to continue to work on. We're all a work in progress. So, working within that team aspect, that's where really all of that comes together. But we're still, he doesn't want to give up, and I don't want to give up on this particular team member. But the signs are there, and we've had some honest conversations one-on-one and between the doctor, myself, and this particular team member. And she wants to get better. It's just, I think she's going to take a little more time than what we had anticipated, but we're not giving up. And I don't think we need to give up. I think our patience is being tried, but
Right.
I think when you have the mindset of, we know that she has the ability, and it's not holding the practice back. So I don't want your listeners to think, "Oh my gosh, we have an incompetent person that's hurting the patients or it's
Sure.
company." It's not. It's just, we want to go from good to great, and then we want to be the greatest that we can be. She's good. I know she can do better, and that's where we are.
Yeah, well, I mean, how many times have you seen situations, and I've seen it myself, where there's been, a team member where they've been with the dentist for years, meaning clinically they're amazing, right? And sometimes that's why, if there is a situation where there's conflict with them and maybe some of the newer team members or whatever the case may be, that the dentist cannot get rid of them, right? Because they are so good clinically. So I think, to your point, I think it's very valid, is that there are situations where people are doing great by the patients, right? They're great clinically. It's just that because all of these people in this dental practice probably spend more time with each other than they do their own families, right? It's an important thing. And like you said, for a team to get to the next level, you and I talking about this before the podcast, treatment is one of those things that I feel very strongly about. I see so many practices out there, focusing on new patients. And when you dig into the records of all of the dental practices across the country, I don't think there's one of them out there. And you look at their own current patient base, the one that they're serving right now, I would say there's billions of dollars, if I had to guess, in unscheduled treatment. And I think your point is very valid about getting the team to get to the next level, because there are teams that can operate and can do what's needed to be done right for those patients that are there. But to really make an impact, to really make a dent on getting more of those patients that treatment done, you're right, Lynn, it does require everybody to be at their best. And if they're not, and one person must be going one way and the other not so much, I'm sure that's where you see the conflict.
Absolutely. And when it comes to unscheduled treatment, I truly think that you have to have a team approach because, and I agree with you. I think a lot of people are all excited about new patients, but if somebody has already seen you as a practitioner, it's a whole lot easier because the trust is already built. So to me, it's easier for the practice to go to the unscheduled treatment and to be able to get the patient back in. There's, companies like Care Credit that are there for third-party financing that we can get the financial concerns taken care of, but let's get back in for treatment. But it takes everybody working together for the patient to be able to get that. Because if somebody doesn't communicate clearly, or let's say, if an assistant isn't on the same page as a doctor, and they're not backing up the doctor when it comes to this unscheduled treatment, some of this stuff can ride on the books for years. But when the patient comes to see us, if we're not reminding them and reinforcing what's already been diagnosed by the doctor, then we're not doing that patient any favors because they're not getting the care that they need to be able to get.
Right.
And if they're in a diseased state, then at some point, either stay with us, Mrs. Smith, or find a place where you can get taken care of, because that's the ultimate goal, is for patients to be taken care of. But I really do believe unscheduled treatment, that's something that everybody needs to work at together between your scheduling coordinator, your financial coordinator, having that same line of conversation between not only the hygiene department, but also all of the dental assistants being on the same page with the doctor and reinforcing everything and looking at all of those things every time the patient comes in. And it takes a little more time, John, for everybody to be on the same page of looking. Just because somebody was there previously for their hygiene exam, then we need to reinforce why didn't you get those, caries taken care of, or what are we going to do about that implant, or what are we going to do about that crown? Whatever the procedure may be, the patient being taken care of is the ultimate goal, that everybody has a role to play on that. I feel that same way about the schedule. The scheduling coordinator isn't the only person that is responsible for that schedule. They may be the only one touching it, but everybody needs to reinforce you need to be able to come back for your next appointment, because I'm a firm believer, if you don't have a future appointment, you're not an active patient, because I don't know what we're doing the next time we see you.
Right. Exactly. So what's going right in dentistry right now, Lynne? I'm curious from your insight on that.
What is going right? Well, I think
That's a big question, I realize. So
wow. There's some I could anticipate. That one I did not anticipate. Okay. I think what's going right is that dentistry is such a caring industry that there's really no reason for a person not to be able to get care if they need to get care by the right person. Yeah. I think that
we've created the environment, basically, right? I mean,
yes.
We've with everybody that's involved, we have created the environment to be able to provide that care. Certainly, there's challenges and hurdles, whether it be with paying for that care or what have you. But I think that's great. I think you're right there.
But the exciting part and this is the science part of me, but I get so jazzed when I read something about the direct relationship between the oral systemic care and the body, because there's people that are walking around thinking, oh, well, I'm just getting a cleaning when I go to the dentist office. And that's a phrase that I absolutely cannot stand either, because there's a whole lot more happening than just a prophy when somebody comes in for their hygiene visit. But that's a different topic for a different day.
Right.
But going in and being taken care of, I mean, inflammation is bad. Why is the inflammation happening? Do we have cardio issues? What's going on? I mean, all of these things that give the depth of the hygiene department as well as dental assistants to be able to educate patients on, because there's a new, something new almost every week or every 2 weeks coming out about that link being able to help patients. And I think we're leading towards overall health. We're looking at, I think, a phase within our system, and I'm not going to get political, but I think as practitioners, I see dentists as oral physicians, first of all, not just dentist. I mean, I hate somebody saying, oh, well, I need a doctor. And if a dentist is there and they say something and they go, oh, but you're a dentist. Oh, that gets my blood boiling, because I don't think they have any idea what they just said.
Sure.
And, but there's so much that can happen for the health and well-being of our patients that's where we are now. It's and the technology, the things that we're able to do and to be able to help patients with that we couldn't do 5 years ago, much less, 10, 15. I mean, all the things that we're able to do. I mean, this is an exciting time in dentistry.
Right. Yeah, no question. All right. So here's the other big one. What are you concerned about?
What I'm concerned about is the lack of business knowledge that's being taught in dental schools now. That is really something that's starting to bother me even more, because it's not fair. I realize they're there for clinical knowledge and all of that, but they're not helping their students by not giving them that information. I mean, I realized I went to business school and dentists went to dental school, but there's no reason to have new graduates come out and not have any idea. And we can debate, are they going to go into private practice? Are they going to work for corporate dentistry? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because they need to have a foundation of real business understanding before they graduate.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I'll be sharing this pretty soon. I'm actually working on a project all around continuing education and forming a new nonprofit organization around continuing education and taking it to the next level, where so much of it now is focused towards clinical. I don't, along the lines of those same questions, or that same question of being concerned, I don't see dental schools building that into the curriculum. I certainly could be wrong. And I think if they find a way to do it, I think that would be great. It seems to me like the industry is calling for those of us out here that have been a part of it, that have worked with teams that have business experience, to create something to support our future profession. Because I don't know, it would be interesting to see, but I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, a lot of people get frustrated, like we talked about in the beginning, that there was this vacuum in regards to why there were so many companies and entities that came in to start to help a lot of the providers with business. Simply because, the need was there, right? I mean, they're like you've said, there was a need for them. They needed help. Very proud and very caring people, and so they're not always going to ask for the help. And sometimes it's too late. So I'm with you. I mean, I think that again, there's certainly a bunch of people in the industry that care and can do some great things. So.
Because of that question you just asked me, that's the reason why I actually put a webinar together to be able to help them, not on the clinical side, because I'm not going to coach on the clinical side, but I've got a webinar that I offer off of my website that is about creating a culture that works. What does it take to build and retain a team of top performers? Because I kept hearing that from my clients. Hey, Lynne, it would be great if you could offer CE and be able to be able to help us from a team standpoint. And because of that need, we can create that kind of thing. So I created that as well.
Awesome. I know you're doing some exciting things, some CE courses. A lot of 2019 is going to be an exciting year for you, I'm sure.
It is, and I'm actually, I guess I can let the cat out of the bag that I am currently working on a book.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that it should be coming out in 2019.
Perfect. Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So how can people learn more about you, find out about you, certainly get more information about how you could help them in their practice, all that good stuff?
I think the easiest would be going to my website, which is victorydentalmanagement, all spelled out, .com. Or you can send me an email at Lynne, which is spelled Lynne, at victorydentalmanagement.com. You can also see on my website my social media between Instagram, which is bballcoach12, or Facebook, or Twitter. Be able to get in touch with me there. But there is a contact form, and I know I wanted to offer your listeners a special, since they did take the time to be able to listen to us today. If you go to my contact page on my website, you'll be able to schedule a complimentary call with me. And I would love to be able, it's not a sales pitch. I just want to make sure that if there's any way that I can help you, that I'm able to do that, because I think all of us in dentistry pay it forward. I don't have the clinical skills to be able to do anything on the clinical side, but I absolutely love helping dentists and try to reduce your stress as much as possible.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And I think you bring up something very important, which is valuing time. I think so often, like you said, so many people in dentistry are very giving, but it is important to value time. And I do think individuals like yourself that work with a lot of dental teams, you also have to value your time, right? Because you could probably help people 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, right? I mean, if you chose to. So it's always nice when people can make that available. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. And it doesn't seem like work when you absolutely love what you do. And I have finally found what I need to be doing right now.
Yes, there you go. All right, so a couple fun questions.
Okay.
All right, so if there was a song that best described your career, or a genre of music that described your career or your life, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Well, there's a song that means a lot to me, and I don't have no idea if your listeners would even know this, but it's a song called Champion by Carrie Underwood and Ludacris.
Yeah.
And that sounds, I mean, it's not all about basketball, because champion is an acronym for a lot of different things. And if I may, I'd like to explain that a little further, because I don't want it to come off as me being conceited or not humble, because that's certainly not who I am. But C is for courage, H is for honor, A is for attitude, M is for motivation, P is for persevere and principles, I is for integrity, O is for optimistic and being open, and N is for necessary.
I love it.
I do too. I do get pumped up by that, though.
Yeah. So you are the perfect person. You mentioned being humble or whatever the case may be. And I heard this interview a long time ago from Kobe Bryant, where this very, very delicate balance between being a champion, playing like a champion, and then the delicate balance between that and humility, right? And or having confidence or whatever the case may be. Because as you know, Lynn, when you're making it, when you're successful, when you're doing great things, that's not the easiest thing to do, right? And you'll hear people often come back and, and like you said, they want to make sure that people understand that, I'm excited, or, I want to be a winner, but that comes with me being humble. So the point of this is that I heard this interview from Kobe a long time ago, and he said, people at times would tell me that I had this really big ego. And he said, and I kind of find that funny, because of all these games that I played, if there's like 5 seconds left of the game and you're a Lakers fan, like, who do you want to have the ball? So like, if I don't have confidence, right? If I don't have just a little bit of ego at that moment, like, I need to have it, because I'm the one that you want to go make that shot. And then when the game's over, I could be humble again, right? So I figure as a basketball person, you would maybe that would resonate with you.
Absolutely. And Kobe also, if there was somebody that he trusted on the team, and if he wasn't open for a shot, he was going to have to pass it to somebody else. So it's not always going to be the star player that's going to be able to make that 3-point shot and win the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're not confident, your team's going to smell that too.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think, you see that a lot, right? I mean, there are times when you see people, and it goes back to the story that you shared with the team, where there was a team member that could do, you guys know that she can do more than what she's doing, right? And so it's raising her level of confidence to get to that next level. So I love it. Great
and
song.
sometimes you just have to have that belief in other people, because sometimes there were a lot of other, what I didn't get an opportunity to share with you, there were a lot of other life issues that she had faced where she did not have the confidence that she needed to have. So that's part of what I'm working with her on it too, is it's bigger than just working as a member of the dental team.
Right.
But she's got it within her, And that's the joy also that I find is people realizing, hey, because you worked with me or showed me a different way of doing something, or, were willing to take the time, somebody's able to perform on a higher level than they even thought they were able to do. And I just get a kick out of that. I mean, that's just fun, being able to help another human being. That's just great.
Yeah, no, it totally is. It's like you said, you can't put a price on that. There's no question. How about favorite day of the week?
Wow. Monday, because it's a start for me to be able to work with clients and start the ball rolling again.
Okay. How about favorite time of the day?
Morning. I'm definitely a morning person.
Okay. How about a place in the world that is on your list that you haven't been able to go to yet, but you cannot wait to go to?
My husband and I have always wanted to go to Alaska, so I think that's going to be the next trip. We've already done Hawaii for our 26th wedding anniversary.
Okay. All right.
Well,
and the last, well, actually, I've got two more here because I want to ask a basketball question. I just have to. It's just, I have to. So you travel a lot, right? And you go through security and you see you've got the TSA members there, what have you. And have you ever noticed like you've got the TSA members that are a little bit more tame, right? A little bit more quiet and subdued. They just kind of ask you to do your thing, take your electronics out. And then you got the ones that are like on it, right? Like they're letting everybody know. They're like all the way up and down the line or what have you. So if you were a TSA security guard, which would you be? If you were asking people to, move forward and get stuff out of their bags and all that, what would be your approach?
I think dealing with the public, especially if somebody is in that particular position, you're talking with people that are comfortable with flying, and you're talking with people that are probably very apprehensive about flying for numerous reasons. So I think instead of being so, chest thumping, me, and I'm going to make sure that I almost want to do a cavity search, I'd be on the other end. It'd be like, okay, we all have a job to do. Let's just chill out. Let's just look at everything and do what we need to do. But, you don't, just because you're in a position of authority doesn't mean that you can't be kind about things.
Yes, amen.
Because you don't know where people are coming from until you walk into their shoes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it is. I asked that question because I travel a lot. I know you travel a lot. It's like, it is this like little mini power trip, right? I mean, it's the day that somebody signs up and you put that uniform on, man. I mean, and they give you some of them give you the runaround. That's for sure.
I don't get that from TSA so much because I'm pre-TSA check.
Oh, gotcha.
But those that work on the airlines, wow, you talk about throwing around some weight.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had some interesting times where I've had to just remember to keep my mouth shut when I really wanted to open it because somebody got a little control freak.
That's funny.
Thanks for asking that question, John.
Well, anybody that travels a lot, like when I do this podcast thing, I always get these just crazy questions in my head, right? And it's just a fun medium to ask them. And so I figure, if I ever get a chance, if I talk to somebody that doesn't get to travel that much, which isn't too odd, because I guess most people are, business owners or what have you. But when somebody does travel, the TSA question is new. I'm always curious. So. But
what I really like with flying across the country like I do, how the different airports, even though they're all TSA, how they will allow certain things and not allow other things at other airports.
Yes, that's fair. That's
bugging me out, actually, to be honest with you.
It's very, very true. A lot of people don't realize that. There's been places where we've gone or I've gone where, you accidentally leave something in the bag or what have you, and then nobody says anything. In the very next airport, it goes. That's true.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. I'm like, well, that's not good.
Right. All right. So final question. Who's going to win the NBA Finals this year?
Okay. I realize that this is not probably going to make a lot of people happy, but I'm in Richmond, Virginia. Right. And you may or may not know that Seth Curry started playing ball and he actually started playing at Liberty before he went to Davidson. And I've watched him play for a long time.
Okay.
And I'm
You're going to do it again, aren't they?
Yeah, they will. But now let me back up for a minute and tell you something, because I had never been to an NBA game before, and my daughter's going to kill me. I'm going to say this, but when she turned 16, she said, "Mom, I don't want a present. I want to have an experience." And I'm going, "Oh dear God, what experience does she want?" As a mom, my mind's going all kind of different directions, right? And when she looked at my face. She's like, "Okay, wait a minute, Mom. Wait a minute. Let me tell you what I'm thinking." And she wanted to see her first NBA game, and she has always been a Seth Curry fan, so it's Golden State all the way, and we had the opportunity. The closest we could see would be them playing the Hornets in Charlotte. So I took her to a game for her to be able to see. And seeing these guys, I mean, TV, you think they're big until you see them in person. Yeah. Oh my gosh, they are huge. Yeah. And it's amazing. And I mean, they're just. I appreciated all the athleticism anyway, but being able to see it live and having the seats that we did, because, we did it all big and everything for her. Yeah, absolutely. But having a blast. I got to go with my Warriors. Yeah. Okay. I don't care how LA stacked their team. Yeah. Well, but I will tell you, before I was a Warriors fan, I did like the Lakers. Okay. All right. Well, I'm from Cleveland, and so then you're not happy that he went to. We're looking up right now. Yeah, but that's okay. That's all right. And but look at exciting. Yeah. Look at Kevin Love, though. I mean, you've got a lot of talent still on that team. I know, but he's out. But Lou's not coaching either, so that's big. No, I know. Well. Anyways, all right. Well, good prediction, and seems to be kind of the common prediction. So I was thinking maybe. There'd be somebody different, but we'll see what happens. Now, if you were to ask me that, but you didn't ask me who I thought was going to win the WNBA, or when it becomes, which March is my favorite time of the year, because I've got a men's pool and a women's pool, and it's just awesome. Oh yeah, going back and forth. Oh yeah, absolutely. I can really geek out on that too. Getting that time, college basketball. Here it comes. Oh, it's great, and Duke did such a wonderful job. Yep. But we could talk for hours. I think you probably want to end the podcast before I start getting on. You never know. Sometimes, I mean, this is the best part. So, but in all seriousness, thank you so much. It has been a true pleasure having you come on again. You're doing great work, and I mean it when I say it. I think the work that individuals like yourself do is not easy, and I'm sure the people that you work with really appreciate it, and you're making dentistry better. So thanks for coming on the podcast, and excited to see what you continue to do. Oh, thank you, John. I certainly do appreciate it. All right, take care, Lynne. Thanks. Bye. Bye-bye. What's going on, everybody? John here. Hope you enjoyed that episode here on the Digital Trade Show Dental Podcast. If you liked the content, liked the guest, and you are looking to add another podcast to your mix of podcasts, just seems like they're growing like crazy, right? Would love to have you visit iTunes and or Google Play and subscribe to the Digital Trade Show Dental Podcast. As I add episodes out there, those will come through on your listening device of choice, and would love to have you become a member. So moving forward, want to let everybody know that very excited to announce that I have taken all of my podcasts, Digital Trade Show Dental, Digital Classroom, the video podcast that I do on Facebook, consolidated everything into a brand new company called DentalCast Productions, doing a lot of the podcasts, also going to be doing live event recording, all kinds of fun things. And we've got a new website, dentalcastproductions.com. That's dentalcastproductions.com. We'd love to have you visit the site. That's where you can listen to all the podcasts. We're also starting up a new newsletter. Going to have a lot of great information and content from my guests, and certainly we will only send you stuff if you choose, but I think you'll like it. I think there are a lot of great things that so many of the great companies in dentistry are doing, and would love to have them bend your ear and or your eyes in a newsletter for a small amount of time during the month to share the great things that they're doing. So go ahead and head out to dentalcastproductions.com. You can subscribe to the newsletter really easy, and we really appreciate it. And as always, if you enjoy the podcast, we'd love to have you share it out to all of your other dental colleagues. It is greatly appreciated. And with that, have a wonderful day.